Oi.
Well, so as you already know, I'm Phil Campion. I can say I'm very grateful to be here this morning in this nice little cosy lounge, which is ideal for me because it's my first time ever of doing a talk, but it's something I wanted to get into for a long time. So
We're guinea pigs.
yeah. Now the title of my talk is called "Who Do You Think You Are?" Now, how does it make you? How does it make you feel when you hear those words? Or what if I was to put the emphasis on different words and say, "Who do you think you are?"
Who do you think you are? Do something and you say, "Well, you think you are doing that."
Well, that could be one thing, but I want to explain why I came up with this title. Who do you think you are? Because the question was, who do I think I am?
Yeah.
And I struggled with that for many years. Throughout most of my life, apart from the ups, the some exciting times. I used to love skiing. But most of my life, through my 20s, 30s, 40s, and even into my early to mid 50s, I struggled a lot with anxiety, depression, panic attacks. I had agoraphobia. That was really scary. Took me about a year to overcome. So basically, I got to the point where I was actually fed up with struggling. I wanted answers. And I decided that maybe the best way for me to get the answers was to learn. So I actually got myself qualified as, I did a course in mental awareness, which covered just about every mental illness I even knew existed. And I then got trained as a peer mentor and got qualified with that as well. So I kind of set about a journey of teaching whilst learning how to overcome mental health issues, which is what I'd, like I say, had most of my life. What this actually realised that I started to gather some tools together. I call it my toolbox of how to maintain a healthy mind and how to block, if you like, or prevent any of the previous traumas coming back. I will look at my notes a little bit because I want to make sure I'm bringing the details properly. So one of the simple little exercises that I learned was deep breathing skills. Now, the whole subject of breathing techniques is actually a big subject. And I've heard about some quite profound sort of recoveries, if you like, from people doing deep breathing techniques. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but sometimes it can involve two people. One is lying on their back and doing the breathing techniques. Another one might be just putting gentle pressure. Maybe it's on the diaphragm, maybe it's on the chest. These deep breathing exercises have been developed. It's even been, well, apparently, people have been, say, released or overcome, say, addiction to alcohol just through these deep breathing techniques. Anyway, the simple one that I use if I'm getting a little bit stressed is a simple breathing in for 5. And then when I breathe, before I breathe in for the count of 5, I just say the words in my mind, in with the good. Then I hold my breath for 5 seconds and then release for 7 seconds. And before I release, I just say to myself, out with the bad. And I'll just stand at my back door looking out into the garden and I'll do that. Or I might even go out and stand on the slabs, which is another technique which is called grounding. Don't know if you've ever heard of that, but apparently you can get grounding sheets now where the sheet is on your bed and it's plugged into the earthing socket so that you're, in theory, you are grounding yourself. What I do know is that working with gardens, I get a sense of feeling grounded. So for someone like me who's had anxiety, what have you, I love that sense of tranquility and grounding that I get in the garden. The next thing that I learnt was the subject of gratitude. Really, it's just being thankful, isn't it? But we say it's gratitude. And for this, it's about creating a mental habit every day, and it's about being gentle with ourselves and doing it in small bits until it starts to become automatic. It becomes a habit. So in the mornings, again, I might be looking out of my back garden, and it could be just looking at a tree. Oh, do you know what? I'm so grateful for that tree. Look at it. Look at its strong branches. Look how its branches also swing in the breeze, but they don't break. And it's a bit like saying, that's how we can be with life pressures. We can be bent, but we don't break. And then we can go on, just write down 3 things that we're grateful for each day, so that we're building that habit. And I can honestly say that because I've been doing this for quite some time, throughout the day now, I am just automatically saying, oh, do you know what? I'm so grateful for that. Thank you for that. Well, who am I saying thank you to? Some people say you're saying that you're grateful and that you're thankful to the universe. And others will say, you know what? I'm thankful to God for today. I'm thankful for this and I'm thankful for that. And it's known that a grateful heart is difficult to attack. So if we say depression can be an attack, it's very hard for depression, anxiety to get a grip on a thankful heart. So it's generally a good self-medicine, if you like. Another technique, and this is on the back of when I was suffering some really quite severe panic attacks. And one of my things was driving the car, because it triggered a memory. The first panic attack I ever had, can't remember the age, let's say maybe 20, 26, 28 years old, something like that. It was like a thunderbolt that hit me on the inside. And I actually wondered why I was still alive. And I was driving the car at that time. Then I had a mental breakdown, and then after that I developed the agoraphobia. But it was the panic attacks that lingered on and on and on and on, and they'd be triggered and they'd come from nowhere. My wife can vouch for this. It doesn't happen now, but some years back, I could be driving down the motorway. Suddenly, I'm aware there isn't a slip road. There isn't a slip road to get off the motorway, and it would make me panic. And if I couldn't get hold of that anxiety and that panic feeling, it would escalate and escalate and escalate. What exposure therapy taught me, and it scared me, to be quite honest, because the psychiatrist that I was seeing, she said, what we're going to do is we're going to expose you to the very thing that makes you panic. Yeah. Now, I had to share with her that what I tended to do in my naivety was turn the radio up loud, pretend nothing's happening, soak myself up in the music. And she says, you're using distraction techniques. It won't work. Oh, okay. So she got my interest. Yeah, tell me more. She said, well, what you've got to experience, and we'll take it very gently. I'd like you, say tomorrow or when you're ready, go out in your car and just go for a mile or 2 And if you sense a little bit of panic coming on, I want you to feel it and I want you to embrace it. And I'm like, hang on a minute. But I did. And I was actually driving to Leicester. So it was 10 miles. And because these panic attacks were frequent, it started to come on again. And I thought, you know what? Bring it on. That's what I said. Bring it on. And I let myself experience the rising of the anxiety. And I recognized the point where I would start shallow breathing more. Because with the onset of a panic attack, what tends to happen is we go into that fight or flight mode. We're trying to escape instead of embracing. Then I felt like the anxiety had come to its peak, if you like. It had gone past where I would normally panic like crazy. And then I felt it starting to gently come down. And that's exactly what the therapist said to me. You'll experience it peak, and then you'll experience it going down to normal, and then you'll feel normal again. Well, I was exhilarated. It was my first time ever of not having a panic attack. And I thought, wow, that's fun. I was almost high on, if you like, dopamine then. Wow, I've achieved it. And then as time went on, more and more practice, I just don't have panic attacks anymore.
Not nice, are they? Heart attack. When I got mine,
Yes.
I feel like you're going to have a heart attack.
Yes, and there's chemicals that are released in the brain. You know, so dopamine is the feel-good chemical. The other chemical is the one that brings on it's the fight or flight. It comes from sort of early man. The saber-toothed tiger is attacking. You know, panic mode, run lads, you know. But we don't have saber-toothed tigers now. We have motorways with no junctions for 10 miles or whatever the trigger is. Yeah.